Welcome back. I am very, very excited to welcome you to our last session of today, which is our keynote presentation um, that will be titled Caretakers and the Archive, Book Leaves and Plant Leaves as Medicine by Chiara Alegria Judiz. Chiara Alegria Judiz is a writer and barrio feminist whose plays and musicals have been performed around the world. They include Water by the Spoonful, recipient of the Pulitzer Prize, In the Heights, winner of the Tony Award for Best Musical, and Elliot, A Soldier's Fugue, a Pulitzer finalist. Her memoir, My Broken Language, was hailed as flawless by the New York Times. Chiara's debut novel, The White Hot, comes out in November. She has also written 2 movies, the animated Vivo and the film adaptation of In the Heights, contributed essays to the Washington Post and American Theater Magazine, and founded a prison writing program called Emancipated Stories. Chiara is a native of West Philly and now lives in New York. So please give a round of applause and a warm welcome to Chiara for our keynote presentation. Thank you.
Okay, so I have a few things to share tonight. I brought some plants that I'll share. I did this about a year ago and it's now since grown back. Is my friend Sarita here? I don't see it. Maybe she didn't make it, but she was with me last time I did this plant ceremony, and hers has grown very big that she took with her. And I have the galley of my new novel that I have never shared publicly that I would like to share a little bit of. So, maybe I've been eager to encounter an archive of things I am far away from, things I yearn for but are not easily at my fingertips, as if my diasporican self-education is a hook, and I stand ashore, fishing, casting my line far, trying to reel distant aspects of myself and my legacy in closer. Maybe I've been eager not just to receive, but to create such an archive. What we create, we also receive. In my writing, I have been obsessed with, returned over and over, to our bodies, my matriarchs' bodies. Their rebellious, wild, and optimistic diversity of form, their variety of fatness, of hip to waist ratios, their many shaped tetas, their too muchness, their wrinkles, scars, moles, and raspy, loud laughter. How to make an archive of something as ephemeral as my bisabuela's knuckles and her thinning hair, and of the lullabies that arrive at my crib not from her, she passed before my birth, but arrive at my crib via a generational whisper down the lane. Maybe as an intellectual living too easily and stubbornly in my mind, inhabiting my analytical brain with too much self-congratulation, creating too habitually from the neck up, I yearn most of all and counterintuitively to be embodied, to return to the belly. I have one. To wiggle my toes. I have 10. To feel once again the warmth of the womb and the embrace of arms no longer warm on this earth. Perhaps the page is where this desire of mine plays out. My second topic of obsession has been our diasporican verdancy, our botanical legacy. Because I grew up in West Philly, and yeah, there were old growth trees fucking up the sidewalk squares. Yeah, there was Clark Park 5 blocks away with its balding lawn and diseased peeling birches and badass cement cracking dandelions. But let's be honest, it wasn't like the Arecibo of my mother's youth, dripping with gandules and guanabana, with viandas bursting below the ground, the farm where she learned to harvest, the farm whose dirt striped her childhood fingernails, the farm that she left and swapped out for North Philly just in time to be a teenager. I roamed the Philly sidewalks, which weren't at all like the verdant Barranquitas mountains of my pop's childhood, where flowers grow out of tree trunks, where there's orchids and bromeliads, so abundant they honestly seem arrogant about their splendor, where Pop mostly went barefoot and will never let me forget it. He reminds me of this fact not to point out the swiftness of generational progress or how far I've come, but the opposite, to remind me of my impoverished Philly purview, how little I know of the earth. Plants fade, shorelines and hairlines recede, matriarchs ascend, ashes to ashes, seed to leaf to decay. Where in the archive for these things that come and go? We are an agrarian people. We are an urban people. Are there boxes full of soil on our library shelves? So I thought tonight I would share two passages from my new novel addressing these themes once again of matriarchal, fallible flesh and of urban garden. This book isn't even going to be available till November, so this really isn't a sales pitch. It's just me wanting to share in this room. Thank you. Okay, so just for context, this is set in North Philly, and our lead character is sharing a memory of her childhood in North Philly. And this is a novel, it's fictional. I am 4. Corduroy pants hang loose around my waist, and from beneath a cropped tank, my innie winks at the world. My favorite childhood shirt, because I used to play with my belly button. It is time. Abuela Yomaira has decided. She assigns me the smaller houseplants on the lower shelves. She pulls the ones from higher up along with the heavier pots and the hanging baskets. Together, we carry this menagerie out to the square of concrete we call a backyard, where these plants will spend the summer. In and out we go, each thwap of the screen door a trumpet of our progress. We place the pots in whatever spot feels right. Some are clippings brought from the island, thriving against the odds after being snuck past customs, revived from a single stem. Those hold medicine. I tuck a leaf from the Siempre Viva in my back pocket. Good juju. Siempre Viva. Other plants are from closer by. Cuttings from the Norris Square Community Garden. Gifts from neighbors over the years. Like the old widower next door who shattered his hip. Abuela Yomaira brought him soup every night until his big cast came off. He showed up months later with a potted bodega aloe. That times 1,000 because she's always helping everyone. Some plants are decorative, others poisonous, frail, or aromatic. Some perform tricks if you know where to touch them or when to watch. They fold their fingered leaves in prayer or close at night, trapping bees in a colorful prison. After the haul is complete, Abuela Yomaira busies herself in the kitchen, clattering through the cabinets. I can smell the rice's creamy perfume and the rich bean broth through the open window. Now that I am 4 and strong enough to hold the big green can and tall enough to twist the faucet, I have earned the chore of watering the garden. But I must wait. It is best done in the evening. The pots drip all over the concrete. The sense of overflow thrills me. I eat dinner out back alone, a bowl balanced on my knees, watching rivulets flow downhill on the pavement. I am by the jasmine, Dama de la Noche, waiting for darkness's late June arrival. According to Abuela Yomaira, the jasmine opens only at night. Nothing is happening and my eyelids grow heavy, but at last a crescent rises near the power lines. Philly's dim moon is sufficient. Like a child reaching for a grown-up's hand, one closed bud cracks, then turns like fan blades on a sluggish breeze, then spreads into a white star. With a release of perfume, La Dama says hello. Every year, when we bring the pots outside, I watch the jasmine's lunar salute. The trick loses novelty as summer progresses, and the chore of watering becomes a burden. but the first night is always something special. One year, Abuela's pneumonia keeps her bedridden through Christmas. She spends a month coughing upstairs while Mom works doubles at the airport and I subsist on Chef Boyardee. The pots remain outside past the frost. I say I can't do it alone, but in truth I'm being lazy. At 11, I am plenty strong. Some survive the chill, but others brown and harden, never regaining suppleness even after they're brought inside. Those shriveled stems repulse me. Their powdery death seems contagious, ready to clamber into my lungs. Abuela Yomaira appeals to my faith. Sometimes plants seem dead, and you have one string that can bring back its life force. Its entire existence lives in that strand, she says. I want no part in it. I don't join the hall the following year. Abuela grows undisciplined with the frosts. More stems shrivel until our garden is mostly sticks poking out of dirt. In a single January afternoon, never having bothered to carry the plants inside, Abuela Yomaira trashes them all. So out of character, the grand gesture. Maybe that's how she abandoned Puerto Rico? Impossible to know because she shrugs and deflects on the topic. A homeless man called Boricuita brings around a rusty wheelbarrow. Who knows where he found such a thing in the city? He offers to remove any trash in exchange for a warm lunch. I sit at the table and watch Boricuita scrape 2 bowls clean as Abuela Yomaira piles it all, pots, dirt, stems, into the wheelbarrow. Don't stare, Abuela says, flicking my head. But his pissy stench and filthy clothes, his gray matted curls shaped like cactus paddles, they fascinate me. I find the man wonderful. He speaks, flecks of pork chops spattering onto his lip and landing on my arm. There's a river under this city, under this very house. That's why the floor is crooked, the whole block is sinking. Look it up. It was in the papers, but they buried it at the back of Section A. Then he leaves with the heavy load, the wheel squeaking around the corner and away. It's good to give him a task since he'll never accept charity, Abuela Yomaira whispers when he's gone. Our house becomes tidier. We are no longer hell-bent on repurposing every item. We buy new. We buy on discount. We buy sparkly. You will never see the plants, Noel. She's addressing her daughter now. By the time you are born, they are memories. You will not see the jasmine spread her legs for the moon. But maybe, in some abandoned lot deep in North Philly, wherever Boricuita ditched them, a stem sighs up towards the sun. A root feels around in the dirt. A seed lodges in a sidewalk crack, unseen by the Soto women. Thank you. So I forgot to mention the whole book is written in the form of a letter that April, who was speaking, she's writing it to her daughter, Noel. So that was on the theme of urban garden, and here we go on the theme of body. We're still in North Philly. Our lead character is sharing another memory. She was a teen mom, and as I mentioned, she's writing a letter to her daughter, and she's telling her daughter now about a memory right after the C-section when her daughter was born. I am 16, lying in a postnatal recovery room. You are in the NICU. I've still not laid eyes on you. Someone informs me a child has been born. I'm out of it. Blurry vision, groggy, woozy, a new kind of grief wrapping me in its cocoon. There's a radiator near my bed, but I see 3 and they're spinning. The lights are out, shades are down. Have I been here for days? A vertical stripe of fluorescence signals someone's entrance. A nurse slips in, soundless, as though her shoes are padded with velvet. Slim figure, blue scrubs. I'm here to give you your bath. The door closes behind her and the room returns to dark, and she lets it stay that way, a relief. I hear the heavy bathroom door open, metallic. I hear the tap running, sounds of rinsing and filling. How many gadgets is she prepping in there? Will she help me to the shower? Spot me while I stand? I hear the soft snap of rubber gloves pulled onto her hands. She positions herself at the foot of my bed, touches me in a way that signals hips up, so I pelvic lift what few inches I can as she slides a wee-wee pad beneath my ass, then guides my hips back to resting. She guides my left, then right heel, positioning them wide, soles on the mattress edge, like at the OBGYNs, but no plastic stirrups. She bathes my entire post-surgery genital area, the dried blood trapping my pubic hair shut, the internal crevices, the outer folds and adjoining thighs, the ass. I can tell by her diligence that I am filthier, muckier, more fluid-caked than I care to imagine. There is a squirt bottle, miracle of room temperature water. There are rags. Relief overtakes me. At one point, she empties a pan in the sink and wrings out some cloths, and I see in the bathroom light cascades of red water poured and rinsed till the rags run clear. She returns and continues. I cannot see past my bloated belly, through the room's dim lighting, beyond my eyes' druggy blur. Blindly, I receive her labors. How do I look? Not great, she says kindly. So kindly. Spread your legs before this stranger. She's come to clean the mess you are. Ankles toward hips, an inch or two more. Knees a little higher, now let the knees fall open like so. I could shut down emotionally, disassociate. Plenty of practice there. Instead, I accept I need cleaning. Thank you, I say, for the frankness of touch, the precision of fingers, the gentle manner, the deft hands, and room temperature water. My mouth says none of this. I'm spent and she's on the clock. But maybe the way I yield gets the message across. Something like wisdom hovers by the bed rail. She cleans but does not sanitize me. There's a difference. I am baptized into complication. I submit. I don't have much choice in the matter, but I am too tired to even humor my naked shame. Still, the spirit can resist, but mine doesn't. It yields. The sack of flesh, named April Soto, yields. The soul in which the sack of flesh resides yields. Still a little dirty, but I got mostly everything, all the parts that are safe to clean. The incision can't be touched yet. April Soto hears the door click shut. The nurse is in another room now. Thank you. Thank you for receiving that, my first audience. So I thought to close off tonight, I'd end with the plant ceremony. And this will involve you all too. If you feel comfortable, this is absolutely not mandatory to participate. It's just if you feel moved to. I've been feeling wary, afraid, overwhelmed lately. I know I'm not the only one. Feeling like the land after a hurricane, just ripped to shreds and stripped bare. So what do after the Earth's devastation? We plant seeds and tend to them as best we can, and we hope some will take root. So tonight, if you'll indulge me, I'd like to sow seeds in this circle of neighbors and strangers, and to thank you all for your ongoing contributions and questions regarding the archive. So I'll be using elements here of 3 traditions I inherit. Lukumi, elements of Taino indigenous plant science, and elements of Quakerism. The idea for this ceremony begins with the book from the archive I read while researching my memoir that was called My Broken Language. I read a lot of Diaspora memoirs at that time, and it was the first time I read Piri Tomas's Down These Mean Streets, which I'm sure many of us have complicated relationships with. In his memoir, it's the 1950s. Piri is a young Black Nuyorican getting into lots of trouble. He struggles with who he is in a racist high school. He feels he doesn't fit anywhere. He struggles with the colorism of his own family because he's got the darkest skin amongst his siblings, and his father will not let him forget it. He starts thieving, brawling, dealing. I don't exactly remember. I didn't have time to consult my book. There may have been some assaults too, gun possession possibly. I remember there's a robbery gone awry. Anyway, he gets arrested. He ends up in prison, bored out of his mind, and he begins to read. He even reads the dictionary. He reads philosophy, psychology. This is not a habit he's had prior to imprisonment. And his self-awareness blossoms, even as he's lost his physical freedom. And then of his reading, he says, quote, "I began to dig what was inside of me." So this use of the word dig, some of the older generations in this room, recall that use of dig. Dig as in understand, dig as in excavate, unearth, dig as in behold, regard, respect. Now, of his self-awareness prior to this transformation, he writes, quote, "I didn't know myself outside of the fact that I ate when hungry, slept when sleepy, and got laid when horny." But then the books. So here's the whole passage. Quote, this is Piri Tomas, "Learning made me painfully aware of life and me. I began to dig what was inside of me. What had I been? How had I become that way? What could I be? How could I make it? I got hold of some books on psychology. Man, did we scuffle. I copped a dictionary to look up the words I didn't know, and then I had to look up the words explaining the original words. But if I had to bop against the big words, I decided, well, I had heart," end quote. A few paragraphs later, he senses the challenge ahead, the ongoing nature of investigative work. Quote, "It's not going to be an easy thing to dig me," he thinks to himself. I began to dig what's inside of me. So tonight, as a final gesture for this gathering, let's dig. So I brought these two plants. She's a hierba bruja. We also call her siempre viva. She's a succulent found all over the Caribbean, also in regions of Africa and Asia. Botanically, her energy is aligned with Obatala, the Orisha who guards our Ori, and our Ori is our highest self. So how did this siempre viva get to El Centro en el Barrio? Well, she originates in my family's farm in Coamo, Puerto Rico. About 8 years ago, actually 9 years now, she was sent to Philadelphia in a box. Her roots were wrapped in wet paper towels and plastic to retain the moisture, and her leaves were protected in newspaper. So the mother plant of these two lives in my mom's yard in Philly, and her clippings, my mom's clippings, have birthed many offsprings, many pottings, and those have traveled to various homes and into various hands across the diaspora. She doesn't need seeds to replicate, though she does produce them. If you look close, and you're going to get a chance to soon, you'll see tiny roots reaching out from her stems and joints. So not just invisible roots below the dirt. She will grab the dirt in any way possible. If you remove a leaf and lay it flat on some dirt, a new plant will take root and grow from it. She excels at continuation. A little sidebar about how I learned. I didn't know. My mom just gave me the pot and was like, figure it out. You figure it out. And I was going through a time of family catastrophe, and that word struck me when you said it. It resonated, and I really lost all sense of time and space. I lost my muscles. Like, washing a dish felt foreign to me. Nothing made sense anymore, and I was a caretaker. I was full-time caretaker for someone who was in crisis, and she was much smaller. I had one little one on the windowsill, and it was like stooping over. So you see how she's growing over. And to me, I was looking at this, taking it as my failure to even grow a plant properly. because she wasn't growing up right. And I just remember spacing out, and I'm trying to wash a dish, and I'm like, have I been here washing this dish for like 10 seconds? Have I been washing this dish for like an hour? Like the tap was on really low. It wasn't even on the right pressure water to wash something. That's how disconnected I was. And I looked, I saw her stooped over, and I saw the roots on the side that was stooped by the dirt, had reached the dirt. And it saved me that I had misinterpreted her stooping as weakness. But it was continuation. Okay, so, and I'm thankful that I'm no longer in that catastrophe space and can address you with more open energy tonight. Okay, so the mother plant, as I mentioned, lives in West Philly, but even the mother has a mother. So in Coamo, Puerto Rico, the mother's mother grew wild and in abundance, covering the earth down the sloping hillside that steeply descended to a river below, where a charca collected, a water hole. So this whole farm looks magical and healing. I have swum in that charca, and the water feels powerful. And if you imagine it, imagine a lot of trees. This part of the farm is not exposed, but is like a jungle. It's very wet. Scorpions live there in the wild. So why have I brought her here to join us tonight? Well, she is medicine, and in particular, she is a filter. So what the yerba bruja does is trap the spiritual and energetic gunk so your personal antenna can have less interference. And so this helps us with discernment and clarity, which is useful for archivists. By the way, scientifically, she is indicated for various uses too, including kidney stones and headache. So she is respected in various modalities. Just to make clear, because if you want, you're going to go home with one of her leaves tonight. It's not to be a tea that is ingested. This is not ingested, okay? So I just want to make that very clear. Okay, so if you're moved to, absolutely no pressure. I really mean that. But if you are moved to, please come and take a leaf. At any size, it doesn't matter. You just find a joint, you pluck it off. If your body is not feeling up for the trek down to this stage, but you would like a leaf, just wave at me and I'll bring one to you, okay? So come on, come join. Who raised their hand? Okay. And then you can go back to your seat once you have your leaf. So the first step of this is, thank you. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put it where we need it the most. So here's some options, okay? And you can make the choice intuitively. One option is you can put it over your heart. Your bra will keep it in place. And that placement is for relationships and love. See, bras are good for something. Another option is you can put it on your head beneath your hat, or maybe you have some sort of hair thing, your hair will keep it in place, or a scarf you could wrap. So that placement is for thought and discernment, for ori, which, as I mentioned, is your highest self. You can put it on your belly, over your belly button, and the band in your pants or your underwear can hold it in place there. And that placement is for overwhelming daily tasks, daily stress work. Okay. So she shouldn't stain your clothes, but if she does, you know, she's worked extra hard for you. Okay. And sometimes my mom says to me, I know you don't believe any of this. And so I invite your inner skeptics to join this moment with us, and your curious inner children too. So there is a passage in my 2021 memoir, which is called My Broken Language, that reads, quote, the Perez women, this is a memoir, so that's actually my family name. The Perez women had divorced Mother Nature. Abuela's gandules harvests over. Mom's circle of sage dead. Ripped and rent from all soil, we who had once been earth women And we're now North Philly, treeless rubble, tire-strewn and derelict. But wait, hadn't one plot of land persisted, migrated with us all this way? One human-sized patch of earth? Our bodies. So please, if you feel comfortable, close your eyes. So here we are in New York City. There is a lot of concrete around us. We are living urban lives at present. I don't know all of the origins represented in this room. I don't know where you all come from. But if you feel comfortable with your eyes still closed, I'd like you to envision your body as a plot of soil from the land of your origins. Maybe your distant origins, your ancient origins, or maybe your recent and closer origins, perhaps. Maybe the forest where you spent your childhood. Maybe a beach where your ancestor bathed her feet. Imagine your body as a roving wilderness preserve, a time-traveling plot of land. Can you see your body as a nomadic, migrating farm, as an ever-relocating natural sanctuary to set up camp, this garden bed tended to and cultivated by generations above you? Can you imagine your body as a place where birds drop seeds? Still arable, still sowable, a movable forest, a movable farm, a movable cultivation. As you imagine this, allow the sun to love on you. Allow the birds and animals to shit on you because it stinks, but seeds are inside it. Allow the rain to drench you. Be greedy. Receive these offerings. And you have to be thankful. So as we imagine this, we're going to ask the Siempre Viva to do a job. We're going to give it a command. So this can be a wish, a prayer. I always prefer an intention. So just as by way of an example, mine is, Obatala, help this Siempre Viva leaf clear out some unhelpful emotional stubbornness and self-pity challenges and obstacles so that I can better tend this plot of land that I have been entrusted to. Specifically, help me see and cultivate a path to health, even if incremental, even small steps, for my loved one who I'll name inside my head now, and for myself as this person's caretaker. So that's just an example. In your head, give the Siempre Viva a job to do that's relevant to your life. And if your command involves another person, just make sure to name them clearly in your head. So please take a moment to do that. And then once you've done that, at your own timing, you can open your eyes. Okay, so we have begun to dig what's inside us, or continued, really. I want to thank you for all the work you do. Some thoughts on what you might do with your leaf. You can thank it, and you can dispose of it on your way out. You can keep her on your body until bed tonight and keep thinking on this intention or prayer of yours, and perhaps that intention or prayer will expand and evolve as the night progresses. You can also take her home and either place her flat on some dirt or flat on a moist paper towel. Keep the paper towel wet every day, and after a few weeks, she'll sprout roots, and then she's ready to be potted. So 10 days to 25 days. So let's end Quaker style please shake the hands of those sitting near you and say hi and offer peace. So I'm happy to have a discussion and answer some questions, or we can just move out and party in the lobby and feel good, hopefully. Okay, we have a few minutes for questions. If anyone has, but y'all worked hard. Y'all did your work already.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm part of Centro staff. My name is Karina. But outside of Centro, I'm also a writer and poet. So I wanted to ask you a question about, in your opinion, how does your identity have a role in what you create, whether that is through playwriting or writing in general? And in your opinion, how would you tell the younger generation how to tell their stories? Or how would you advise the younger generation?
I have a lot of thoughts on that. I guess that's kind of how I spend all day, every day, thinking about that. A few things come to mind. One thing that comes to mind, and I met a woman named Clara, and we were talking about the archive, like out in the hall. And I was thinking about a project I did. I interviewed family members and that had served in the United States military and wrote a play about Puerto Ricans and diasporicans in the United States military. And one of the discoveries, that's like the first play I wrote that felt like me, you know. And one of the discoveries I made was, okay, I asked my cousin, he had just come back from Iraq, like he had all these, you know, wild stories, but I also interviewed my uncle who had been in Vietnam. And one thing I have found is that I mentioned to Clara the sense that like we need to, before we're preserving other archives, we also need to be a self-archivalist. And the way I've come to understand that is because after I spoke to my Theo George for hours, and let me promise you, this man never spoke about Vietnam. Okay, no, he's a closed book. Titi Ginny was like, well, you can ask him a question, but he doesn't talk about that. No habla de eso. We've been married 30 years. He doesn't talk about it. Okay, so I sit down. Theo George's a very jolly guy. Okay, he's like Black Boricua Santa Claus. Okay. And we sat down. He's like, so what do you want to know? Kiki, what do you want to know? And I was like, well, what year did you enlist? This man spoke for hours. I did not ask him another question. Trust, I had spent a week sweating these questions, putting them together so carefully, but off he goes, taka, taka, taka. He's talking about falling in love. He's talking about losing buddies. He's talking about being a Marine cleanup crew. Okay, I couldn't believe it. He was crying. He's talking about close range warfare, nightmares he's had every night. And then, so I called him a few days later to thank him. And he was like, Kiki, I've been meaning to call you and thank you. I was like, what would you thank me for? And he said, I haven't felt this light in 30 years. And it was such a beautiful early lesson for me because it was like, oh God, it really doesn't even matter if the play comes out good or not. It's like the act of creation and the act of centering a story is the work, and it's meaningful. And in some spaces, our stories kind of fit more naturally. And then there's other spaces like military service, let's say mental health. You all know the spaces where it's like, we don't talk about that. There's not really an appropriate way to bring it up around the dinner table. So there's parts of our stories that really understandably get buried. And so then the community loses out. It's not just that individual loses out. Like, there's a lot of loss there when those stories stay inside. So I think archive and identity, the Venn diagram, there's a lot of overlap there. And the real joy is doing the digging. The real joy. It's not, for me, opening night, none of that. It's finding out, it's making the discoveries together. You don't know what they are in advance. Like the improvisation, you go into it without a preconceived notion of where this is going to lead you. You just ask a question. And some people stories are just waiting to be summoned. There are so many of them. So that was a rambling answer, but thank you for your question.
Had no one ever really asked him how it was, or did he feel comfortable talking about it? That finally he said, "Let me let loose," because that happened also with my uncle, and never talked about it either. One day I asked, and the same thing. He started spilling as much as he could, but then he got emotional and he stopped. But I think it's the organic sense of, does he trust enough? And he knows his family. He knows que tú lo quieres, but comfortable enough to talk about it. So I don't know.
I'm really glad you asked that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason that I think the reason that he was able to speak then is because I came over, we had a lot of time, and I asked. So that was an appropriate, he understood it was an appropriate kind of forum to tell, that his telling would not be a burden. It wouldn't burden me. It would not embarrass him. I'd kind of prepped him. I was like, Theo, I'm going to ask you, if we're going to have this conversation, I'm going to ask you some very real and direct questions. So he knew it wasn't just small talk. So I think it was just creating literally a space where it's like, it's appropriate to tell here, which you don't necessarily have like during the parranda or like during the Eagles game. Like, that's an awkward fit sometimes. Yeah. Yeah, like I think the act of curation can be so simple, So yeah, thanks for your question. Any other questions, or should we end there?
Thank you. This is something more personal. How would we get in touch with you, particularly to discuss a possibility of a screenplay for a movie that will be filmed on political corruption in Puerto Rico, adapted from a novel?
If you look up, like I have a website with, yeah. Oh wait, I'm in writing mode right now, so I might have taken down the contact page. Instagram. Yeah, I have DMs. Okay, maybe one last question.
Thank you so much for sharing the work that's coming out soon. I feel so lucky that we got to hear part of this work. And I wanted to, it's your debut novel, right, coming out?
Yes.
And you are like a renowned playwright. What has been the process of moving from writing plays to writing this novel? What has that transition been like for you? The storytelling, it's just such a different genre. It's kind of incredible. So if anything that you want to share about that, traversing those genres.
Yeah, thank you for asking me. I mean, this is just nerdy stuff I could go on and on about. Like, I love this. I have some friends that for them writing is like torture. I'm not like that. For me, it's okay. So nerds. All right, here's the thing. Here's what I've kind of sussed out in my own practice, is that playwriting involves bodies. right? That's the medium, it's the body. And it basically boils down to a study of what life is as experienced through human behavior, right? You can't get to, there's no rule, there's no law, but this is what I found. Basically, when I'm playwriting, the tool I have to work with is how humans behave with each other in space. I have found, it's only my first novel, so I don't know, but what I've discovered is that the novel is not about human behavior, it's about human experience. Because I can get inside someone's head in a different way than what they're saying. You know, and a character in a play might say one thing, and, you know, we all have like what my friend calls a Congress inside us of our many selves. And so one or two of them might be saying this, but 4 or 5 of them are saying different things, you know, inside me quietly. So that's the play version. In the novel, there is space to really go there with more of those voices inside. It's about the experience in an environment. So I read 2 passages, one about the jasmine opening at night, the kind of potted, right? Do people have, like, you're bringing the pots out on the fire escape or in the backyard or whatever, seasonally. So one was about that, and it was about her experience of it. That, I think if Abuela Omara were to have her story being told, her experience of that might be quite different. She might see that as an accomplishment, not something that ended, right? So that's kind of how I see it, and I love it, and I think it's very fun to, someone spoke earlier, a speaker mentioned, oh God, it was such a good phrase, the venom of professionalism or something, and the venom of careerism. And I think one of the, you know, it's good to make money. Oh yes, okay, you mentioned, I love that. You know, like, it's great to make money when it happens from any of our pursuits, especially the ones that come from a place of integrity, real curiosity. But it's such a shame when that starts molding the practice and our relationship with the practice, and also when it narrows the scope of what it could be. And so I do feel that a lot of young writers, there's a sense of, I'm a playwright, or I'm a poet, or I'm a director, and it's like, okay, well, at a certain point, don't you want to like hop highways and like get into another lane? Like, all the artists above us did many things, right? And so I think it's a joy to kind of challenge yourself in new spaces and see what new stuff you're going to have to learn for the project. And so I think on that note, we'll end. I want to thank El Centro so much. This is a beautiful space, and I've never stepped foot into the archive or just into the Centro community and felt anything other than nourished. So thank you so much, and it was very lovely sharing this time with you all.